while the videos are relatively lo-fi, they're like rooted in your personality, they're accessible. The thumbnails for this series have been out of this world. There's one for Maryland that is like one of the most beautiful thumbnails I've ever seen, where you're like peeking through the grass, or the one for Alabama where you're like in the keyhole. Like Colin and I were talking about how this is like a gallery. Like I would go to a gallery to look at these thumbnails, and like they're all beautifully designed works of art. And, you know, I've watched you work in titles and thumbnails before. Like I've never seen anyone do it in the way that you do it. And this series, I think, is really emblematic of how you operate with titles and thumbnails. And I'm just curious about like the process of making 50. Did you make all 50 thumbnails prior to the series? And then how you thought about packaging the series? Because I know there's actually been some changes along the way.
Yes. First question, yes, we did make all 50 thumbnails before we left. It was a grind. I mean, I think I made 50 thumbnails in the past 2 years combined. Like, obviously, with ABC testing, that's going up, but like the amount of work that went into ideating before we even started shooting them, like, oh my goodness, it was months and months.
Big thing that really hit me is this idea that, you know, it's hard because we have weekly church services, for example, for a church, and you know, we do a lot on YouTube and we have a pretty big following, but it's interesting to think that they don't create something local and then upload it. They actually start with the thumbnail. I've heard Mr. Beast talk about this. Ryan Trahan's talked about this, where they actually they start with the thumbnail and they reverse engineer the title, the content. And then that's what drives it, because it's in the scroll or in the feed, you click on things. And I think it's so funny. I've learned this with my book. I really wanted to write a book to help, you know, church leaders and volunteers in churches to think about digital. I wrote the book and then I came up with the title and the cover. And it's funny because I've kind of learned that that kind of really puts it into a box, because ultimately I just wanted to train churches, and I'm not thinking that the number one reason why people pick a book is because of a title and a scroll on Amazon and or Audible. And I've kind of, I should have started the other way around if I really wanted, you know, full impact and I didn't just have my objective. And so I think it's interesting to think about this. I think about thumbnails, think about what drives clicks and opens. I think one of the things is just really thinking through how you title things for your church service on YouTube, and also are there creative things you can do with your thumbnail, like maybe, like for example, something we're doing is we actually title. We have the thumbnail as the online community worship service, and the title is just the message title and the speaker, and we don't duplicate the text. There's a lot of creative things. I thought this was a really fun kind of insight. Watch the full interview. A lot of great YouTube secrets.